Hello, my beautiful flowers. Hello, how are you? I hope you're doing amazing. So, I wanted to talk to you guys today specifically about shadow work. And because I touched a bit on it when I was doing the first Manifest 100% video. I'm trying to remember what I even said. I was like, what did I say? The first Manifest 100%, letting go of anger to live in your highest vibration, living in your true self. So, okay, so working with your shadow self is technically, because that's being talked about more as well also. When I was in Belize for like most of 2019, I was back and forth from America and Belize, but most of the time I spent in Belize in 2019, I did, excuse me, I did like rigorous shadow work. I did shadow work that goodness gracious. And it was triggered by an event that happened. It was a pattern that I was repeating. I was repeating a pattern and I didn't even realize it until it was brought to my attention by somebody very close to me. And I was just like, and that triggered the shadow work process because I was already, from my spiritual awakening, I was already in the motions to better myself, to do things that were right for me, to do things that were going to make me a better person. I was kind of already doing the pebble stones to that. I had yet to do the shadow work that took to bring that person out and or embrace my authentic self, be that person that I wanted to be. And shadow work in itself is just you embracing that part of you that you were shamed for, the part of you, and not only by others but by yourself, traits that you didn't like in yourself that you stooped down and shamed yourself for. Because again, like I said before, how, so equal parts suffering has to come with joy, equal parts what's deemed as negative traits or negative behavior, like say selfishness or, other aspects like that. Selfishness or you know, uh, deceitfulness, like naturally being crafty, or just what society and or just, bad traits that we have that we suppressed, that we were shamed for. That's a part of our shadow self. But it's not only that, it's the parts of ourselves that we were shamed for that were, us, our authentic self, positive attributes that were shamed growing up as children, or shamed, by our guardians, by our loved ones, without even realizing it. And the thing that starts with shadow work and how to truly embrace it is that when you realize that you hate certain parts of yourself because you were taught to, you have a resentment towards the people who inflicted that, who did it. And what you have to remember, and this is very important, because I suffered through this, because I realized it a bit too late, but again, I had to regroup and fix it or whatever and gain some understanding. The people who gave you your trauma and those who made you hate parts of yourself, who made you shame parts of yourself, they were taught to hate themselves too, but they weren't taught that. They embraced it and live with it now. So they don't know that they themselves are giving trauma, because all they know is trauma is regular. Trauma is okay. They live with it now, so they're reflecting it onto you because that's the cycle. That's what they were taught. So when you do this shadow work, when you do this self-reflection, you're going to feel a bit of resentment. You're going to be like, damn, why did my guardian shame me for this when really it was a talent that I suppressed that could have made me better if I worked on it? Why did they treat me this way or make me feel bad about this gift that I have? Because the shadow self isn't just the negative attributes or the negative traits you may have. It's also your gifts that were suppressed. So say, for instance, for me specifically, I'll use myself as an example because I can only use myself as an example. I was always very sensitive growing up. I always quote unquote cried easily, and um, was always the crybaby. I so and so always had to get my way, but I was also the one that was teased a lot, teased the most. Like, my family thinks it's regular to tease. Like, that's the thing. Like, oh, if I'm teasing you, that means I love you, which really, no, it's not. Because it's like, you tease somebody for how they act, how they talk, how they dress, how they like something. Like, I was always, like, my siblings always called me a nerd and stuff growing up because, I liked anime and stuff. But now that's popular now, but that's neither here nor there. That the 3D stuff is all recycled, let's be real. But it's like, growing up, my family, like, always thought that teasing was a form of love, and that's not my love language. Like, it actually went against my love language. I learned later on my love language is affirmations and actions. So I remember what you say matters a lot more than what you do. Like, what you do isn't a part of it. Like, you need to say it and then follow through with it, but what you say holds more of a factor. But with that, my shadow self incorporating shaming and notification. My shadow self incorporated shaming my sensitive side. Like, I hated that I was sensitive. I hated that, what people said mattered to me. And when I did, like, my shadow self work, I realized that is my greatest gift, is my sensitivity. That's why I wouldn't say I'm the most, like, gifted tarot person, like, because sometimes I get it wrong. Sometimes, like, spirit be, like, guiding me, but then they're just like, ooh, not yet, or, like, the message doesn't come across clear. But because I'm so sensitive, I helped people so much with my sensitivity more than I did with the hardened exterior that I formed from trying not to be sensitive. Like, my sensitive aspects of me helped people, my peers, my family members, way more than the persona that I try to put on, in later life, to try not to be sensitive, to try to be like, oh, I don't cry over anything. Like, like, the side of me that cries over everything and knows why somebody cries and, like, will start bawling with you. That is my greatest strength, because I know pure empathy. And that was a part of my shadow self that I needed to embrace back again. I needed to love myself for my sensitivity, because that was my greatest gift. So when embracing your shadow self, it's not only the negative attributes, because those negative attributes, even though people try to, I'm switching hands because I'm in and out of this blanket, but the negative attributes is also, in my opinion, how people survive. Like, the negative attributes, oh, she's sneaky, she's cunning, or, like, oh, he's only out for himself, he's selfish, or such and such. Let me tell you something. When we come into this earth out of the womb, when we come into this physical existence, when we, like, freaking respawn out of the womb somewhere else, what are we on? Survival mode. Because nobody's gonna get us to point A and point B but us. Like, our parents can only do so much. You can only blame your trauma on your parents and your, like, everything on your parents for so long until it's just like, all right, the trial's over. Whenever you cut the cord on, your guardian's guidance, when you cut the cord on when your guardian's guidance matters, that's when it's like, okay, level one mission is to such and such and such and such, whatever your life mission is at the moment. So to incorporate your shadow self and to keep on leveling up, into that higher self that you have to be in this existence. Because people say it's a choice. Nah, there's no choice now. There's no choice now. The way these vibrations are, the way the world is going, you gotta be in your higher vibration, or else, like, Because the way this world's going, like, you're gonna respawn into another lesser version of yourself the next time around if you don't fully embrace your higher self now. And you have to embrace your higher self. I be into these rants though, like I be into these rants, but you cannot embrace your higher self without embracing your shadow self. Your shadow self is a reflection of your inner child. Your shadow self is that part of you that, because your inner child, when you were a child, that is your most authentic self. That is when your personality is at its peak, because it's not chipped away or thrown at or manipulated into whatever society or environment or position you were put into. Everybody's born with their authentic self. Kings are born into their authentic self and then they're raised to be kings. Peasants were born into their authentic self and then they were reminded and told that they were peasants. They were told they were peasants. No peasant really like came into the earth like, I'm a peasant. Every peasant came in happy AF. And then, they were beaten down and told they were peasants. But the thing that has to come in with that is that you cannot let these limitations get to you. You cannot let the shadow self be ignored. And you cannot fully embrace the shadow self without embracing yourself, and you can't ignore it. You have to really bring that bitch in. You got to talk with your shadow self. Treat your shadow self like 5-year-old or 6-year-old you. Like, how would 5-year-old you want to be treated? Like 5-year-old you, maybe when you were a child, when you were told that you were hungry or something, go fix it yourself, go fix something to eat. Or that other part of it's getting dark. I'm gonna wrap this up. I'm gonna try 12 minutes. Or your shadow self was probably nurtured. Your 5-year-old self was probably nurtured, and maybe it wasn't. But with working with your shadow self, you have to treat your shadow self very delicately. You can't treat your shadow self aggressively. That's what people, kind of fall short on, because they're ashamed of their shadow self and they're angry at their shadow self. They're like, shit, I'm lazy because such and such and such and such. I'm timid because of such and such and such and such. I'm mad because of that. I can't stand that side of me. I can't that side of me. And it's like, that's literally the worst thing you could do. That's giving yourself the same trauma that your guardians or such and such or your peers or whatever gave to you that time. So every time you shame your shadow self and get mad at your shadow self, you're yelling at like 5-year-old you that's just like, but this is just you're basically, being mad at yourself. And it's like, girl, you can't be mad at yourself anymore. It's 2020. Man, the darkness is coming. It's 2020, baby girl. You gotta love yourself. You gotta love every attribute of yourself. I'm telling you, because nobody is gonna love you as much as you. And when you give yourself that self-love, when you really look at yourself and be like, man, you're the shit, the bad habits and all, I love everything about you to yourself, that's when everybody else and whoever you come across is gonna be just as comfortable saying that to you. They're gonna be like, man, I love how authentic you are. You're not trying to be a persona. You're not trying to be something you're not. You're not trying to be this other person. You're yourself. You are your authentic self, and I love that about you. And that's what you gotta do. You gotta embrace your shadow self and really just be like, hey, that part of me, shadow self, I love you because you're so talented. Yeah, you may have these ways about you, but that's what makes you especially special. That's what makes you a survivor. That's why I love you, shadow self. It's gotta be like that. It's gotta be like that, or else it's like you will forever not find happiness. You will forever feel like there's a void, because that void is your shadow self just trying to be heard. Your void is that inner self, your inner child just trying to be like, I just want to be understood. I just want someone to understand me for once. And if you don't understand yourself, nobody else will. Nobody else will. I'll just leave it off there though, because literally the sun is gone. The sun is gone. The street lights are on. I'm about to eat some tacos. But I love you, my beautiful flowers. I hope this message resonated, honestly. And I hope you guys just love yourself. I just want the collective to love yourselves. Because we need more love in this place. Like, this world needs more love. And, like, that's the only way it's going to heal up. If we just love each other, period. Assalamu alaikum.